Let's talk about deleting resources, folks, in Microsoft Azure. We're looking at the Microsoft Azure documentation here, folks, and we're just looking at something that's talking about deleting resources. And we know resources that get created in Azure are held within an Azure resource group. Now, usually to delete resources, we just delete the resource group and the resources within it are deleted, folks. But sometimes you may get resources that are dependent on others and then there's errors happen and they don't get deleted, or we just don't want to delete every single resource, folks. We only want to delete some. Now, the best way to do it is to create your infrastructure in a language like Terraform so that you can just remove the resources from code, folks, and then they can be deleted via that means where it gets submitted via pull request and the people who own the repository can approve those pull requests. All right, and that's what I've done here. I've created a storage account and I've did a data reference to a resource group. In this case, I've also created the resource group in infrastructure as code. Okay, now that's all singing and dancing, but that's not always the case, folks. All right, and I'll show you here my Azure portal. And what I've got there is I've got a resource created via infrastructure as code, but I've also ClickOps this one, folks, and you will come across this here when you get a business as usual task like cleaning up resources, folks. You will have to do this task at some point. All right, and it's nice to start off, doing any task. You'll get a Jira ticket to say you need to go and clean up these resources. It might have a keyword like cleanup in this case on all the resources, or it could be relative to a project or a service that's been created within your organization. It's nice to put a Confluence page together, folks, and just create a step-by-step guide. Map out all the resources first, and then map out possible teams that are related to those folks, and just map out then where those resources are. If they're created via infrastructure as code or if they're ClickOps, then you need to start getting a little bit of a flow going as to the order of where to delete these folks and who the people are that are going to approve them. Also, things to watch out for here is if we look here at a storage account, folks, it's inside this resource group here. There could be containers that contain data, folks, and you may have to move that data to another new storage account. For example, if someone's created a version 2 of a storage account for security reasons, then you may need to go and move that data to another storage account as a cold blob, or whatever the people that want you to move the data want done with it, or if they want to do it themselves, they can do that. Also worth looking at, folks, is locks as well. If you've got locks and resources, they may not delete until those locks are removed. There's none in here, but you can get locks and resources as another blocker. This list isn't exhaustive. These are just things that I've came across again in the real world that I like to share with you guys, of things that happen that could be blockers, folks, and you can learn from them, because if you've got a long running workflow in, for example, GitHub Actions, and it fails possibly because there's a lock in a resource, it could have been a simple task of just removing that lock, and you could move on, but you don't want to have to run a big long workflow again if it's something simple. But sometimes it happens, so it does, even if we've done it a few times, so don't worry about it. Another thing to look out for as well is hidden resources. In this one here, if I come to overview in this one called Davy Home Lab resource group, I can see about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 resources. But if you come to this manage view, drop down and go to show hidden types, this will show another resource, folks. In this case, it's a virtual network link, and I know that that's related to the private DNS zone. And we've now got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 resources, and there's a number of reasons this could happen, folks, that the resource is hidden. It's just part of, for example, the plumbing. It just helps other things work. It just may be removed there in case you accidentally delete it, or just to give a cleaner view. There's probably other things as well there, but it's beyond the scope of the tutorial. But yes, resources can be hidden, folks. Okay, you can go back into manage view and hide hidden types. Again, that resource will disappear, but it's just part of the process of possibly helping you map out the resources and you know, mapping out like nested resources that need to be deleted before a resource like private DNS zone could be deleted as well, folks, or just show you and give you a better understanding of the resources that are going to be deleted. Okay. Now, if we come to our GitHub repositories, folks, we will see that, like I said, it's the best place to go and actually clean things up from and then put a PR in. Okay. But it's a good place to go and obviously search for the resources first. Say, for example, we come to our repositories in my organization here and we want to target the ones that are under cleanup as a keyword. For example, let's say resource group. Cleanup could be a project name, it could be a service that's created in your organization. That's the keyword we would want to go and search to get possibly all the resources. Like, so if I come to the search tab at the top and stick in cleanup, we'll see there we get a lot of resources associated with the word cleanup in a couple of different repositories there. One thing I would say as well is in some cases you might like try and search for the storage account by the complete name in the repositories, and because we're using a reusable variable here, it'll have possibly no reference in the repository when you do a search of this bit here, and you may not find it. So if I search, for example, the actual full name of the resource, so if I come back to the portal here and I copy what the resource actually comes out as, cleanup, with that keyword in the middle, dev, that won't show up anywhere, folks. Okay, as we'll see here, you see we can't find anything now because the dev part is referenced by a variable. So we're sometimes better just doing the cleanup search, or possibly if there's another word on the resource as well, folks, it might come up, you know, it could have a suffix on the end, like in this case maybe cleanup -v1, you know, there'll be something that'll be relative to the resources, and sometimes you may not find them all, and it might just take a bit of collaboration or a bit of trial and error. Okay, but best to find everything first, get clarification, and then just stick your PRs in and let the keen eyes of the people in the know get across it. So we can see here there's a few resources that came up, and these would be the places that you would want to clean the resources up. So in this case, cleaning up that storage account would be the first port of call there. Obviously after you've cleaned all the data out of it, and then cleaning up the resource group if it's in a separate repository, which is the case sometimes, where in the resource group itself you would have role-based access control set up or budget control set up, so it might be a totally separate repository. So cleaning up storage account in one repository and then cleaning up the resource group in another repository, folks. And also another little thing to watch out for, I just put the data reference in here. It is referencing the same storage resource group I've created for this storage account. This here could reference another resource group that could be ClickOps, and the storage account could be in code, but the data reference could be to a ClickOps resource group. So you've just got to be careful of that too, and just make sure, like, you know, you understand, like, there is things that are ClickOps. Okay, you'll definitely come across that. But these are just a couple of tips, folks, I just wanted to share with you. As I say, it's not exhaustive. Just go by whatever your organization says, or if you've got a flow in mind that you've been using and it's working well, happy for you to drop it in the comments. You know, make a comment in this video and say, hey, this is a better way to do things. You know, I'm always willing to learn. But as always, I leave this one with you, folks. I'll wish you all the best. Take care and good luck.